what I always find really interesting when we're talking about this topic with people is we're all feeling this, aren't we? It's not just, certain groups of people. It's everyone that our resilience is really being tested. But first of all, when we talk about this, what do we mean by, what does resilience mean?
The question is from Thinking Focus.
Hi, I'm Richard from Thinking Focus.
Hi, I'm Paul from Thinking Focus.
And today's question is, how can I or my team become more resilient?
Good question. Really good question.
This, Paul, is a question that we've been asked quite a lot, isn't it, recently?
Yeah.
By lots of our customers and people within our client organisations.
I can't imagine why, but it's become a big topic this year.
and what I always find really interesting when we're talking about this topic with people is we're all feeling this, aren't we? It's not just certain groups of people. It's everyone that our resilience is really being tested. But first of all, when we talk about this, what do we mean by what does resilience mean? What are we talking about?
Well, I think the best description that I like is this idea of resilience is almost like a measure of the speed that we can bounce back.
Yeah.
Life is going to knock us down. How quickly can you get back up again? Often it's used in engineering terms. There's a sort of dictionary definition is something about forces on strained metals and compression forces. And there are days where I think that's probably a more accurate description of human.
Well, yeah, how much strain can you take, kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you think about that's very relevant at any time, isn't it? At work, with
Absolutely.
more and more pressure that people feel under in their jobs. But it's exacerbated even further now, isn't it? There's more pressure because of being at home all the time, perhaps homeschooling kids, not seeing family. So if you think about resilience, then, so you're under pressure and you've got pressure bearing down on you, if we use that analogy.
Yeah.
How have you got a good analogy that you can share where we talk about how you might bounce back?
Well, I think a good way of thinking about resilience, and I call it the kind of water cooler analogy, although as I'm talking to you, let's go with tea urn. If you're a proper good Yorkshireman.
I like a good cup of tea.
You like a good cup of tea.
In fact, I'll have a sip while you're talking.
Yeah. So imagine kind of in your body is this kind of tea urn of resilience.
Yeah.
And it's got a tap on it on the bottom. That when life comes and whacks you, you turn the tap on. But it isn't a tap, right? There's probably a finances tap. There's a work tap. There might be a number of work taps. There might be the work project tap and the boss tap and the big boss tap and that annoying colleague tap. There's going to be a whole load of these. And then there's the kids tap and the wife tap or the husband tap or the partner tap. There's a whole load of these little taps around the bottom of the tea urn that can easily be turned on and can drain the hot water out of the nice big tank that you've got.
And they have an effect on each other, don't they?
Because
if the let's say the pressure on a project tap is open and flowing out fully, that will have a knock-on impact to home life, friends, how much time you've got, health as well.
Yeah.
There's got to be a health tap.
Yep.
And for a lot of people that's under pressure at the moment, isn't it?
Absolutely. And so you've got all these taps, and I think for a lot of people at the moment, it feels like not only are a lot of them turned on, but some of them, somebody's turned it on and almost broke the handle off, so you can't turn it back off again.
So using your analogy with my tea urn then, so all the tea's flowing out, how do I put more tea in the top?
Exactly. And so that's resilience is a combination of or resilience skills are a combination of, can you control your taps? Can you learn to occasionally turn some of these taps off by yourself? Because often it's the world and other people that seem to turn them on for you. And how good are you at filling up the tank?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can almost go, well, how big's the tank in the first place? And that, again, is a learned thing because, it's easy to compare to other people and go, they look more resilient than me. But actually, maybe they've exercised their resilience tank a little bit more. They've had to use it a bit more because their life has had maybe more ups and downs, and they've grown a bigger tank.
So two things you make me think of there. So things that maybe have happened in my life will help me build more resilience. So there's kind of an experience thing.
Yeah.
Okay. But are there certain, I suppose it's different for everyone, but what might be some of the things that will fill your tank up? So I'm sort of listening to you speak here, and I'm thinking, well, actually, some of the things that give me energy back might be, taking Sarah out for dinner, or us having a weekend away, or it might be spending an hour with one of my sons playing cricket, or it might be spending some time with my colleagues at work, and not just working, but also talking about work topics and maybe having a drink after work. Those are the types of things that you mean that would fill my tank back up?
Absolutely. I mean, I think of it as 3 boxes. So 3 kind of areas.
3 things that help to fill that tank back up.
Or 3 areas, not things, 3 areas of things.
So, 3 areas, yeah.
So I like to think of it as body, mind, and spirit as these 3 boxes. So let's cover each one off. And I'm going to start with the easiest, which is body. I think it's the one that most people understand. To be resilient, you do have to think about what, and I use this phrase a lot, and it probably just is partly an English southernness to me. But what you stick in your gob makes a big difference.
What you eat.
Yeah. Well, eat and drink to a certain extent. But, I use personal experience here. When I get stressed, when I get really busy, one of the simplest things that I do, which I shouldn't do, is I start not cooking and not taking time. I use that extra time I can get, and I make, just order a takeaway.
Yeah, yeah.
Get something delivered. And let's face it, that's not good food.
Yeah, and you and I differ on this one, because when I've had difficult periods in my life, one of the things I didn't do very well is I did the opposite. I didn't eat.
Yeah. Again, not a good thing to do.
Not a good thing to do. So you're talking about the quality of what you eat, what you drink, the frequency of it, and actually trying to do the right things there without being judgmental, because we all have these challenges, can really help the body.
Yeah, I'm not saying for 1 second that you suddenly swap to veganism if that's not your thing, or that you change radically. But to think about actually when we're under,
to be mindful of
and when we're under pressure, are you getting a good balanced diet? Are you eating at regular times? Are you eating the right amount of fuel that's going to drive? Because your brain, your body, it needs that to stay healthy and motivated and committed.
And to perform, and if you think about performing in a business context, I think one of the things that we often forget is actually your body will perform better in a meeting if you've had, they've got the right fuel in the engine.
Absolutely.
You'll be able to think better, make better decisions, create a better argument around something if you've done that.
And so a couple of other bits around body that I think are worth thinking about. One is exercise. And again, I'm not suggesting for 1 second that you suddenly decide that now in the middle of a lockdown is the time to become a marathon runner or go for that Olympic gold medal. But again, a lot of people I've talked to who used to go to the gym a lot are finding it harder to exercise. So they're almost kind of stepping off what they were used to. And exercise does have a good mental, it creates certain chemicals and reactions in our brain that make us feel better. So if you were doing a lot of that and you stopped, not good.
Yeah, and it's not just, it's the motivation, isn't it? It's the motivation to go and do it. And we had this very thing at the weekend. I didn't feel like going for a walk, but actually you do, and it's one of those where you go and you do it, and you always feel better afterwards.
I again, personal example. There are many days where at the end of the day, the last thing I have to do is walk the dogs. I've got 2 dogs, and I need to go and walk them at the end of the day for obvious reasons, because if I don't, I have to clean up the house in the morning. And there are many days where I don't feel like doing it. It's where it's cold, particularly this time of the year. But I always come back feeling better.
Yeah.
And that's just a walk around the block. I mean, that's not, we're not going on a 10-mile hike.
Yeah, that's not your Joe Wicks. That's not your Joe Wicks half an hour workout, is it? But yeah.
The last one is sleep. We know from research that sleep has a big impact on mental health and the way you feel. If you're not getting enough sleep, it's gonna detrimentally affect you. And it's really, again, I think at the moment it's really easy not to get enough sleep, to kind of sit there and maybe connect that back to some of the stuff you're eating, and particularly drinking. People are going to maybe drinking more, staying up later.
I think sleep patterns have changed as well during lockdown. So certainly in a busy family house like mine, sleeping patterns have changed. Kids don't have to be up as early to get them up, ready, out the door, as they did. So I think maybe kids go to bed a little later. Maybe that means parents have a little less time at the end of the day to do the things that recharge their batteries. And in some cases, maybe the quality of the sleep is not as good because of what you're eating and you're drinking and lack of exercise. I watched a brilliant TED Talk a while ago, and there was a sleep expert on there, and he said sleep is as important as food and water.
Absolutely.
And I say that to the kids all the time because when they're fighting going to bed and they don't want to go to sleep, or even the older kids that stay up too late talking to the girlfriend on the phone, and you say, look, this is as important as eating and drinking. You must get the right sleep.
To find out how Thinking Focus can unlock the potential within your organisation, go to www.thinkingfocus.com, where you'll discover more about the work we do, helping our clients increase productivity and enable change.
So the second area I like to talk about is mind. And obviously, because of the work we do, we're really interested in the way that people think. It's a topic that comes up a lot. But there are three things, again, here that are worth thinking about. So the first one of those is self-talk. And we've covered this on a number of other podcasts, so I'm not going to go into a huge amount of a depth about it.
Yep.
But you go right now, how kind are you being to yourself? How much of that self-talk is kind of accepting of the situation, or are you beating yourself senseless on a daily basis?
And not to over-egg that one, as you said, but I would say it's also having some strategies that you can use when you notice your self-talk is not great.
Absolutely. Calling yourself out a little bit and saying, hang on a minute, that's not fair, it's not realistic. I just need to be a little bit more aware of the self-talk that I'm having right now in this moment. The second part of that for me is about, are you actually ever in the moment? And they're very, very linked to self-talk, but it's really easy at the moment with all the things going on and often being stuck within four walls and being kind of almost stuck in the same room all the time to either be, going back to the past and remembering when you could socialize and when you could go out and, when going to a movie was a different experience.
Yeah, and longing for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Or heading to the future and particularly worrying about all the things that are going to come up. When am I going to get a vaccine? If I go out, will I bump into somebody? What's the risk? All of that stuff.
Yeah.
And actually just a little bit of time in the present, bring yourself back.
Yeah.
It can be really helpful. Now, I'm a big fan of mindfulness, and I think for a lot of people, I'm not saying it's a panacea. I'm not saying it works for everybody. For a lot of people, small amounts of mindfulness can be really helpful. And again, there's lots of research and lots of evidence that supports what mindfulness does. But I know for some people that doesn't kind of fit. It doesn't suit them. It doesn't suit the way they want to live their life. But there are mindful activities that you can do. And I heard a really good example. I can't even remember where it was. I think it was on the radio the other day that someone was talking about just doing, they're sitting down with the family and the kids and doing some activities that caused everybody to be mindful, like a jigsaw puzzle, like a group exercise thing that they were getting off the telly, maybe just doing some art together that causes everybody to be in the moment. That isn't meditation. It isn't anything particularly deep. It isn't something you need to go away and train or learn or go on a course for.
Yeah.
Anybody can do it, but it's spending some time every day in the moment, in the present, really helpful.
No, I think that's
starts to calm the brain down, starts to calm that self.
Yeah, absolutely. What else? Is there any more?
Well, the third bit, it's the bit I call interference. And I think you can, there's a couple of great examples of this. But in terms of, we talked about what you're sticking in your gob. I'm now going to talk about what you're sticking in your brain. So a couple of things to think about. Yeah, the news. The news is trying to entertain by shock and horror and, 9 o'clock news or the 10 o'clock news starting with bong, today was a good day. Doesn't really, that doesn't cut it for.
No, it's not designed in that way. It's designed to be sensationalist, isn't it?
Yeah, because they want you to listen. They want your ears, they want your eyeballs. So be wary of that. Too much input of the news, too much of all that bad news and everything's going wrong is gonna affect your self-talk. It's going to affect your mood. So ration yourself.
But we are we have lots of interferences, don't we, around us all the time? Because, not just stuff like news, but, maybe I'm trying to concentrate and work on something and an email pops up.
Oh, yeah.
That gets my attention, or I get a text, or one of the kids shouts that they want you, or, an alarm goes off on the Alexa to tell you that, something's happening. So you have a lot of interferences. And I guess, are you saying here that actually one of the things to do that helps you be in the present is to try and switch some of those off for a bit?
I think so. I mean, if you think about, let's just take email as just one example. What the email system's doing is it's trying to tap into some pretty ancient parts of your brain to grab your attention really quickly. And those parts were not designed to go, oh, here's another email, let's have a look. They were designed to go, danger, danger, run away.
Yeah.
So if you think of it like that, if you think of every email notification, every time your phone pings, every time Alexa goes off with an alarm, every time, all of these systems do, if you sat, if you sat in an office next to somebody who every 30 or 40 seconds went, oh, Richard, oh, Richard,
yeah.
Eventually, you are going to lose your rag with them.
Yeah.
And yet we surround ourselves with devices doing the same thing.
Yeah, we do it to ourselves, and then we wonder why we find it hard to concentrate. And, why our attention spans are really short and those things.
And so then the third area I like to call spirit. And I think spirit comes down to me to three things: the spirit of resilience. So one is purpose. Human beings are purpose-driven creatures. We do things because they mean something.
Yep.
And I think it's really, when times like this, when life gets tough, we lose connection with our meaning. We lose connection with what we're trying to achieve in the bigger picture. And one of those things that we can do is to reconnect with that, to spend some time thinking about, well, why am I here? What am I trying to do?
But it's also okay to bring the bigger picture into the shorter term. So it's also okay to create a shorter term purpose, maybe one that gets you through the day, gets you through the hour, gets you through the week, because in uncertain times, sometimes something that's a long way off can seem very difficult to grasp hold of.
Absolutely. And I think by reining in that time frame, finding out, what our purpose is right now. And it may be that during this lockdown, our purpose isn't to go, how do we, do everything amazingly and move our projects forward at rapid speed and educate the kids at home and do everything. It may be that our purpose is to go, how do we actually just get through this to the summer in a place where we're in a good place for when this ends, to then capitalize on the opportunities in front of us.
Yeah, just to reevaluate purpose, I think, and try and reconnect with it is a really good bit of advice.
The second part of my three in spirit is priorities. And that's just really sitting down and going, look, the reality is there's far more for us to be focused on right now, particularly right now where we're, for most people, they're trying to be business person, manager, leader, teacher, parent, dutiful son or daughter to older parents, carer to friends. There's so many things that are expected of us right now. You need to understand what your priorities are. What are the two or three things that are really important to you? If for no other reason than if you're trying to do everything, when there's too much to do, how do you know what to say no to?
And on that one about priorities as well, linking back to the first thing you talked about, body, eating, sleeping, exercising, you also kind of go, on your priority list at some point, you've got to appear on it.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really interesting point, that when things get tough, the easiest thing to take off your priority list for a very short period of time is you.
Yeah, it's yourself. Yeah.
And you go, lockdown one, let's go back to March last year. I think a lot of people did that. They took themselves off the list and just went, right, I just got to throw myself into this. I'll be okay.
I think it's even worse now, to be honest, because I think there's lots of people taking themselves off the list because you go in. I was talking to a friend the other day, and he said to me, my job really is just to make sure everyone else is okay. And whilst that's fantastic from being a father, and he has a big job in an organisation as well. That's really great.
Yeah.
But also the thing I put back to him was, but what about you? If all these people are relying on you, what about you?
I always think it's no accident that every airline in the world says the same line, which is put your own oxygen mask on first.
Yeah.
You are no use to anybody else in this emergency if you can't breathe, if you have no energy left, if you can't move forward. If you're not prioritizing yourself, then you're not serious about helping everybody else, because you are killing the single biggest resource you have. You have to prioritize yourself somewhere in all of this. And I get it. For a day or 2 days, you can take yourself off the list. But this has been 10 months.
Yeah.
You've got to be on the list. So I agree. You have to be on the priority list.
And what's the third one? Yeah.
It brings us neatly to the third one, which is we're social creatures. And therefore, even if you are that kind of person who quite likes their time on their own, we need social interaction.
Some connection. Yeah.
Connection. And so again, it's are you prioritizing that? And I don't mean, that you've done, 20 Teams calls today, back to back, one after the other. That's not really social connection. Do you have moments of where you give of yourself and other people give back to you?
Well, this brings you back to your tea urn analogy. So it's social connection that tops up the tea urn or the tank or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That's the social connection. Yeah, because actually, 15 Teams meetings or Zoom or whatever you use, if they're really focused on business, probably don't do that. They probably don't give you the connection that you need, or enough of the connection that you need that tops that tank up.
Yeah. So all these things, but just kind of, and I like these three labels of body, mind, and spirit, of going, you can't do all of them. You might not do everything we just talked about, but are you aware of the three areas? Are you aware of what's going on in your head? Are you actually, controlling and looking after yourself and your body? And do you have some purpose and some social connection? Are you getting enough in each of those areas? If you do those three things, those three areas, then you will be topping your tank up. Now that, the taps might be on at the moment more than they usually are, but as long as you're kind of feeding more tea into the top of the urn, then we have your nirvana, which is an everlasting tea urn. Yeah. But if you're not, you're going to run out at some point.
So I think there's some really great tips there on how each of us can become more resilient, and if you're managing people, how you can help them build more resilience.
And my last thing here is you don't need to do all of it, but if you do just a little bit more than you were, you will be in a slightly better place. And then you do a bit more, and that's how resilience builds.
Next time on The Question Is.
This seems to be a constant in all the conversations we have. Overwhelmed, overworked, they don't know where to turn, they don't know how to satisfy everybody. They just feel so in demand, and literally a lot of the calls that we're doing, particularly on Teams or Zoom, we start with people with their head in their hands, and the first 5 or 10 minutes is helping them with their thinking.
To find out how Thinking Focus can unlock the potential within your organisation, go to www.thinkingfocus.com, where you'll discover more about the work we do, helping our clients increase productivity and enable change.